Yeah, I'd like to organize a revolution with you. Hear me out. So, first of all, I'm so sorry if you are alone. What I mean is, the current state of the world is like completely 100% overwhelming for anybody who's like paying even a little bit of attention, really. For years, like, oh my gosh, years, I have felt just so isolated from the rest of the world because of caring too much, essentially. Like paying too much attention, quote unquote, right? As well as like trying to cut things out of my life that other people view as necessities. It's so hard, dude. It's so hard. Um, but yeah. So I'm sorry if you're going through the same sort of isolation that I'm going through because it's horrible. But I know that there's more people like us. Like I know that there's more people like us. Like people who actually want to do something. Like not just say it, but actually do it. So, information as we receive it, especially here in the United States, there's lots of problems with information for us. Even if we have all of the facts laid out for us, there will still be problems. Like even if every piece of evidence is made known to us, like right in front of our faces, we will still either find it meaningless or not know how to apply it to our day-to-day lives. And I'll kind of get in a second to what the exploitation and what the tyranny, if you will, actually is. But yeah, so there's that limitation. There's that fundamental limitation where we just have like information and it just becomes meaningless and also overabundant. We have so much information. I think this era that we're in is actually called the information era. There was, I believe, the industrial era was the previous era, if I'm not mistaken. But we are definitely, that sounds about right, doesn't it? The information era, because there is so much information, and it is truly hard to sift through. What do you think about Gaza? What do you think about the Iran attack? Can you actually form an opinion on that? Even if you did the research, how good of an opinion can you actually truly have that isn't maybe influenced by some sort of bias or maybe just sort of given to you by somebody who either is biased or is maybe even malicious with what kind of information they want you to know? It's so hard to know things, especially things that are going on elsewhere. One idea that I think we can apply is just like listening to people, and I guess ideally also supporting journalism with integrity behind it, like actual journalists who have, who operate by values and who want to get the truth out above all else. But hearing stories from people, especially people who are, say, in Gaza or in Iran, that could probably lead us closer to the truth, just using those things as an example for the overall information tragedy that is happening. I can't get into just how much this information tragedy has affected my life, but it has, very much so, and it's horrible. So, the next step, once we've sorted out a couple of these problems, is to cut out exploitation. Tear down the things in our life that contribute to the abuse of people, animals, and the environment across the whole earth. So we live in a very interconnected world which is pretty amazing that we've been able to achieve this level of interconnectedness. But it also makes for some extreme risks, you see, because a phone, something as simple as our phones, come from a very large and wide-reaching supply chain. And can you honestly tell me where every piece of your phone comes from? No, and no, you cannot, right? Realistically. If you do know that, then there's something else that you own and you use and you participate in that you don't know the full traceability behind it and where it actually comes from. The problem with this, of course, is in situations like more, I guess, impoverished or poor kinds of the world, parts of the world, there exists labor exploitation and apparently child labor. And so I'm laying in front of you the facts right now. I'm laying in front of you what I've seen. I actually haven't heard stories from people who have, been abused in these exploitative industries. Think of sugar and cocoa. But I have seen what I have seen. And so I'm about to help us navigate the information crisis a little bit better. If we sort of just take what we're seeing at face value, like just sort of our surface level research, I suppose, then what we find is that there probably is something that's kind of exploitative behind our day-to-day luxuries. And so the safe thing to do, the morally consistent thing to do, I guess, or morally appropriate thing would be to cut that thing out for the time being. Or if you must use electronics, or if you must eat something that is exploitative, that has this supposed exploitation behind it, then preferably get it from somewhere where it's not supporting the supply chain. For example, if somebody throws away a phone, it would be probably significantly more ethical to get that phone from the trash, repair it up a little bit, or hopefully someone's just getting rid of their phone. And then we can get our electronics from a non-exploitative way. And we can still have the luxuries, but if we follow this line of thinking enough, we're going to start cutting out a lot of shit from our lives. That is exactly what I'm doing. It is so hard. It's comfort. In a lot of cases, it's comfort food. But if we think about animal farming, most people would agree, I believe most people would agree that abusing animals is bad. And then I think a little bit less people would agree that factory farming is abuse. I think it is, and there's lots of people who have evidence to suggest that it is. So factory farming is another example. Factory farming at the very least, right? But there's other kinds of animal exploitation we got people exploitation, animal exploitation, and then of course just general environmental exploitation. Think of things like climate change. Isn't that very word confusing and overwhelming for you? It is for me. Can you honestly say to me that you know about climate change? If you do, then that's amazing. Help me understand, I suppose. I don't get it. But what I have done is I've looked at some of opinions and research and some stuff on climate change, and I found, there's possibly something going on here to where the kind of energy that we use may actually produce a bad effect for the Earth. Now, many people are of the belief that the Earth will kind of correct itself, just sort of auto-correct its own self. just balance its own self out. And that actually makes sense. It makes sense. But if you just have that bias, it kind of paves the way for you to just overlook some details, is all. And so, by the way, with this video, I apologize if it's kind of like chaotic and just kind of like weird. I'm trying my best. The point on this channel is to try. The point on this channel is to fucking try. Okay? I don't have to be perfect. I definitely don't. What I do have to do is put effort. I put effort into this video so far. I even wrote out a little script for it. Okay? So I'm not the most perfect person to sort of lead a revolution necessarily. Because, I'm kind of pathetic, to be honest with you. Okay? I'm kind of pathetic. Right? I feel depressed and lonely and confused and like very angry and shameful a lot of the time, and I can't even talk, man. A lot of the time I can't even express myself. So I just want to throw that disclaimer in there. I'm not perfect. Well, I guess that's kind of a cliche that's a little bit annoying at this point, but I'd go a step further and say that I'm a little bit of a piece of garbage, okay? I just want to make the world better, quite honestly. Like, that's my goal here, bro. I don't care about, like, money and shit. Like, I care about living a good, happy, full life. That's exactly what this is. I'm trying to protect life with my words. And if I'm not doing that, then feel free to correct me and give criticisms. Because, quite frankly, I need them. I don't want to get stuck just kind of thinking and working towards a direction, or saying certain things, or just kind of putting all my mental energy into something that's wrong, or is unhelpful. And it's difficult because for people like me who want to study in certain areas like child exploitation, veganism, control over technology, I suppose I want to be educated in a wide range of things, but those are some of my studies right now. But as somebody who wants to know those things, it's hard to not accidentally kind of focus too much in on them, on like a certain direction, that I become almost deaf and blind to the other adjacent problems. So for example, I have spent a considerable amount of time thinking of solutions to stopping online child sexual abuse. One of those solutions that I became certain of at one point was to basically surveil. Just have complete monitoring of all platforms. But then I discovered in spaces such as the consumer rights side of conversation, those kinds of people, consumer rights, privacy rights kind of people, I've found that my propositions would actually contradict their desires to be free, which is upsetting, because it's very genuinely hard to work towards meaningful solutions. But some parts of change making and creating solutions for the problems of our time, some aspects of those are actually pretty simple. And I should touch on everything in this video. So that's kind of my disclaimer. That's kind of my acknowledgement of just a couple more problems that we're running into. Problems with me. So let's continue on. So we've kind of talked about how information is like meaningless and like overabundant, and the things that we do in our day-to-day life are exploitative. So I just want to wrap that up really quick. It's definitely a sacrifice, but we can tear down our current systems and rebuild from scratch. We got to do it with people, though. I've noticed so many people in my life who are afraid to sort of restructure their entire lives, burn it all down, all the bad, all the built in, baked in exploitation that we partake in, whether it be biases in our minds or, like, I guess you could call them logical traps that would lead us to believe that, you know, people on the left side of politics are, I don't know, they hate babies or whatever, and then the people on the right side hate women, right? Or vegan people hate autonomy and the choice to eat your own food. And on the other side, it's like, you know, people hate animals and just want to abuse them. Neither of those things are actually true, right? So we can tear down these systems and build from scratch. Isn't that a wonderful thing? We have to do it together, though. I assure you. We very much have to do it together. So I would say, for the next strategy for revolution, we do all of that. We tear it down. Everything in our lives. We look critically at our lives. We rip it all down. And then we live in an environment that supports that. So what I mean is surround ourselves with people who care about the same kinds of things. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I have been searching the country, quite literally, in fact, to find a community of not just like-minded people, because I don't want to get into a sort of confirmation bias. I don't want that to perpetuate inside of my brain. But what I've been doing is I've been looking for people who kind of share some of my values, some of my, hopefully my good values that I have. Which I believe everyone really has. I mean, the values I have are pretty generic. And when I say values, you might be tempted to think like it's kind of like a corporate word, like company values and stuff, or maybe it's like kind of a cliche, or just kind of like, I don't know. You might have some thoughts about that, but I think values are fucking awesome. I've been writing about mine for a couple of years now. But I'm trying to find people who are in a physical community and who are working towards change, because there are those people. There are those people. For you to say otherwise is just wrong. It's wrong. Unless I'm missing something, I don't know. But I have very much observed that there are other people like us, like a lot of the people who I see in life, who are scared to kind of walk away from some of their luxuries that, quite honestly, they don't even want to partake in the first place. It's just sort of built in. It's built in as a habit. That's the problem. A lot of the shit we do that serves to damage the world and ourselves and each other, it's built in. It's baked in. But I've said that a lot already. So yeah. I have found a place that reduces light pollution. So light pollution, not everyone knows about it, but light pollution is when artificial lights made by humans obstruct the view of the stars, which happens. And I know a lot about it. And I went to a community that turns off their lights. And if they do use outdoor lighting, they use it in a targeted way. Or rather, they follow the established principles and rules of responsible outdoor lighting, so as not to obstruct our view of arguably the most beautiful thing humans could ever see. Among other things, I mean, this community They live by values. They reduce waste. And there's so many places like this. And if you need help finding a place like this, they exist on the surface web. You don't have to dig very deep. You can find places. You can make places like this. My point is, we need good environments that support us with people who are working towards sharing our values. And I don't know how many people I'm speaking for when I say this, but I know I'm speaking for some. Because what I'm describing here is my circumstance exactly. I mean, I was in an environment where people, they didn't care. They didn't want to be conscious of what they were doing. But quite honestly, this is a revolution, and we have to be conscious. There's no more time to not be conscious, because what we're doing is exploitative, and it doesn't really serve anyone except ourselves. So there's that, and I'm open to talking more about that. I'm open to talking more about all of this, of course. Next, I would say we need to be loud. We need to voice our concerns and normalize talking about real subjects, like these very real things in life that demand our attention. I mean, they're screaming for our attention, right? This includes, of course, voicing concerns to government, which, by the way, as we've been over, problems like information pollution can make that hard. It's all so fucking hard, dude. It's all so fucking hard. Like, it's actually tragic. Because every time I talk, I'm just completely overwhelmed by every problem going on. But I assure you, the world has changed before. Think of slavery as an example. I mean, to make such a change as a society, definitely affected a lot of people who were, very, very used to slavery. But people over time learned that the ways of the past no longer work. And I would argue that a lot of these things that we're going to discover no longer work, I believe that we're just living through them right now. And we'll discover soon enough. So we just need to be loud about that. I mean, there's a quote and it says, like, if you want to be heard, repeat yourself loudly. And often. And often. So I'll do exactly that. Like, seriously, forever. Like, I'll just repeat. I'll just keep making these videos until everybody who I want to reach is reached, and everybody who I don't want to reach is also reached, because quite frankly, I mean, I just want people to see this, especially people who know what I'm talking about. So yeah, we need to be loud, because our voice matters. And if there was any thought in your mind, by the way, that one small singular voice doesn't mean anything, it's just it just gets lost in the noise, that is absolutely false, and that is a disgusting idea. I'll be honest. It's just completely fucking wrong. Because even if you think that your actions are just completely insignificant, you have no fucking idea. You have no fucking clue just how important your actions are. Think of an instance where a small action from somebody else, tiny action from somebody else, has impacted you. We are tied in an inescapable web of mutuality. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. That's a quote. Paraphrased, I think. Another quote by Albert Einstein: "We must widen our circle of compassion to encompass all living things on Earth." Paraphrased. End quote. So yeah. The next thing that I want to talk about: do not ignore your fucking convictions. If you know you have to be a protector in life, if protector is sort of a word that could describe you, right? You have to do this. You have to do it regardless. We can't ignore our convictions. I have been guilty of this, and honestly, when I talk about this stuff, I'm basically just talking to my past self in a lot of ways, right? Don't fucking ignore your convictions. It's like a little voice, it's like a little demon inside of you, just clawing at the walls of your stomach, or like at the walls of your skin from the inside, and it's just like trying to scream at you to do the right thing. And I know 100,000% that I don't want to say that. That sounds overly certain and, I don't know, self-righteous or something like that, right? I don't want to say something like that, but I'm quite certain that there are other people who ignore convictions. Just that feeling in your mind, like, should I stop doing this? Does it even matter? Yes, it does fucking matter, as we've already been over. And yes, you should stop it, especially if there's some research that would suggest that it's exploitative, or if your thinking and your biases are kind of damaging the sacredness of communication with others. If your biases and your own selfishness essentially are getting in the way, I'm speaking to myself too. I'm not above you. Remember, I'm kind of a piece of trash. I'm speaking to myself here too. But if these things kind of interfere with convictions, you can't let that happen. I've noticed the harm of that in my own life, and don't fucking ignore your convictions. So, those are kind of the ideas, the problems. There's so much more. But this covers kind of a wide range of things, honestly. I want to say, ask me for help and others. Ask me and others for help. I have a Discord server for people who correlate with my message. And you can join. It's right in the description. It's on my channel. Just join it. I do not care whatsoever about the server being big, or even me owning the server. It could very well be someone else's server. I don't care, right? I just want to connect people. That's the goal right now. Connect people. So I don't give a fuck if it's my server or somebody else's, as long as it exists. Do you know what I mean? I don't even care about being popular. I care about change. I quite literally just want to fucking change the world. That's what I'm here for, dog. So yeah, there's a Discord. The reason I advertise it is, of course, I'm passionate about connecting people. And also, it's kind of a next step. I feel like with a lot of YouTube videos of this sort, you might find that maybe they throw in like a sponsor or something, or I don't know, an advertisement, or maybe just leave you with problems that are kind of left unsolved. And if you go to the comments, there might be some insight there, but not even very much. Like, nothing that you can really do something with. So that's kind of the goal of advertising for you to join a Discord or to contact me and talk so that we can open conversations about this. Contact me directly or through a comment. So yeah, that's that. I guess I'll close with some words. Actually, I don't know how long this will go, but I have a couple other things to mention. We will literally not stop until the world is better. And until, like, our homeland is safe. We will not stop. Life simply has too many good things in it for us to just kind of sit around and wait. Life is too precious for that. So what we're doing here, by changing the world and sort of quite literally being the revolution, like, you know that cliche, be the change you want to see in the world? We are literally embodying that. We're like, okay, I'll take that advice. I'll fucking take it. Whatever changes the world, right? It's not optional for us to do this. To take these steps. These crucial steps. And if you think that they're not crucial, please just tell me why. But yeah, I've been talking endlessly about these things for months and months at this point. Well, at least a couple years, honestly. All things considered. And I will never be quiet. I will never be quiet. As I already mentioned, I will just keep fucking yapping until something changes. Something big changes. In fact, I hold in my mind a lot of the time a sort of fantasy of when things do change. I hold in my heart a sort of fantasy. It kind of makes me very happy. It actually makes me like dance around and have chills because I love it so much. But it's like imagining when significant change in society just comes all at once. It probably won't happen all at once. It might, in a way. We just don't know. We can't be entirely sure. But as I've mentioned, people are capable of change. Societies are capable of change. So there's hope. But yeah. Just not gonna fucking stop. We can't. I mean, the price of us slowing down, like people who assume the role of protector or revolutionary, or I guess those two words kind of are really useful in a lot of ways, but people who assume those words, we just can't wait. We can't slow down. I mean, there has to be time to just sit and enjoy the earth, to remind ourselves of what we're protecting. I've been doing so much of that recently, and it is genuinely so helpful to just breathe and just remember what we're fighting for, like what we exist to protect. So yeah. I also want to say values. So I mentioned my values. Values are so important to all of this. I sort of just like to have the best possible values, the best possible principles, and just try to apply them to everything I do. Everything I've already mentioned. I approach this great goal with values like objectivity. Is that the right word? Objectiveness. Like real objective change, empathy, accountability so we don't get stuck working in the wrong direction, like I mentioned. So accountability and like transparency, sort of receiving feedback and then sort of talking about it and just having like a flow of communication. And then the next value is communication itself, like useful forms of communication such as dialectics, Dialectics is sort of an alternative to the concept of an argument. It's like the good version of an argument, pretty much, right? Trying to understand the other person and trying to reach real, meaningful change. Of course, to ensure that we're talking productively about problems instead of just making each other angrier or making things worse or trying to hide behind our own frustration from convictions. So yeah, I guess if this revolution sounds sort of boring to you, then, I mean, I'm sorry, I guess. Like, okay, I wish I could give you a more emotionally moving and exciting, you know what I mean? And just emotionally powerful government overthrow plan. I wish I could give you that. I wish I could give you some kind of plan to overthrow the government. Right? Something that gives you chills. But what I'm sharing here are the steps that come before that, realistically. I think we need to have some more unity and morally consistent type of living before we just kind of jump to violence against the system. Whether or not the system deserves violence, I might have to leave that up to you. However, if there are people who are destroying our lives behind the scenes, say secret societies, or we've heard it said before, extremely rich people who don't care about other people's lives, sociopathic, psychopathic kind of rich people, the classic, right? Or politicians waging senseless wars. Or especially governments who the people do not believe actually represent their interests, but rather they recognize the government as kind of just like this force that just pushes them down, just an authority. Government isn't an authority. It's a way for the people to have their interests represented. At the very least, it's intended to have the majority of people have their interests represented. That's a whole conversation we can get into. But governments are not here to trample on us. But taking all those people, all those kinds of groups, all those examples that I just said, they must not be in any sort of position of power. Anyone engaging in this kind of secrecy or a kind of plot to maybe gain power or to cause people harm, anything of that sort, essentially, they must be removed. It's pretty simple. I mean, everybody would agree with that. So if that happens, then we can approach with peace. We can approach with values. Values look a little bit different for different people, but largely there's trends among them that indicate that people kind of have like a shared morality, generally, it would seem, to protect and uphold justice and care about things and care about truly good things in life. Abuse, exploitation, corruption, and anything adjacent or anything that falls under those terms must all be removed from our lives. Thank you.